There was a small town where families sent their children to a school they trusted. In this town lived a black family with a young boy named Jamal. Jamal was a bright and friendly child who loved to learn and play with his friends, his parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were proud of him and worked hard to give him a good life. They believed school was a safe place where Jamal could grow and succeed. But over time, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson noticed something worrying. Jamal began to change. He was less excited about going to school. Sometimes he came home sad or quiet. At first, his parents thought he was just tired or had a bad day. But then Jamal started to tell them about things that made his heart hurt. He said some kids and even some teachers treated him differently because of the color of his skin. He said mean words or ignored him. Sometimes they laughed at him in ways that made him feel small and lonely. The Thompsons listened carefully. They felt pain for their son. No parent wants to hear that their child is hurt by others, especially at school. But they also felt strong. They wanted to help Jamal. They knew this was not just about one boy. It was about fairness, respect, and kindness. They decided they would stand up for Jamal and make sure the school knew what was happening. One afternoon, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson sat down with Jamal. They asked him to tell them everything. Jamal shared the words that hurt him, the moments when he felt left out, and how sometimes he felt scared. The Thompsons promised Jamal that they would do everything they could to protect him and to make the school a better place for all children. Next day, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson wrote a letter to the school principal, Mrs. Collins. In the letter, they explained the problems Jamal was facing. They asked for a meeting with Mrs. Collins to talk about the racism their son was experiencing and to find a way to stop it. They wanted the school to listen and to act. When the day of the meeting arrived, the Thompsons felt nervous but hopeful. They dressed neatly and prepared to speak clearly. They brought Jamal with them so he could share his feelings if needed. As they entered the principal's office, Mrs. Collins greeted them politely but with a serious look. The office was plain, with a big desk, some chairs, and school pictures on the walls. Mr. Thompson started by thanking Mrs. Collins for meeting with them. He explained how Jamal was being treated unfairly by some students and teachers. Mrs. Thompson added how much this was hurting Jamal and how it was making the family worried about his happiness and safety at school. They asked Mrs. Collins to take their complaint seriously and to help change things. But Mrs. Collins did not seem to listen carefully. Instead, she looked uncomfortable and defensive. She said the school had rules against bullying and racism. But sometimes it was hard to know what was true and what was just feelings. She said they needed proof and warned that making complaints could cause trouble. The Thompsons were surprised and felt sad. They thought the principal would support them and protect Jamal. The parents kept calm and explained again that Jamal's feelings were real and important. They shared examples of what Jamal had told them. But Mrs. Collins kept interrupting and saying the school was already fair to everyone. She seemed unwilling to admit there was a problem. The Thompsons tried to stay polite, but inside they felt their hopes slipping away. As the conversation went on, the tone in the room changed. What started as a calm discussion became tense. Mrs. Collins grew more serious and said she would need to talk to others before taking action. The parents insisted that something needed to be done quickly because Jamal was hurting every day. They asked for a plan to keep their son safe and to teach students about respect. Mrs. Collins replied sharply that she did not like the way the parents were making demands. She said she was in charge and would handle the situation her way. Thompsons were shocked. They came as peaceful parents, asking for help, but now felt like troublemakers. Just when the Thompsons thought the meeting could not get worse, Mrs. Collins made a shocking move. She picked up the phone and called the police. She said she was calling them because the parents were causing a scene and making the school uncomfortable. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were stunned. They had come to talk, not to be treated like criminals. The minutes before the police arrived felt very long and heavy. Jamal held his mother's hand tightly, sensing the worry around him.
Ow.
Other school staff looked on silently. The presence of police officers made the parents feel scared and confused. They wondered why they were being treated this way, only because they were black parents asking about their child's well-being. When the officers entered the room, Mrs. Collins explained quickly that these parents were upsetting the school. The officers listened, but saw that Mr. and Mrs. Thompson were calm and respectful. Parents told the officers they just wanted the school to protect their son from racism. The officers nodded and asked everyone to stay calm. Even though the police officers did not arrest or punish the Thompsons, the event shook the family deeply. They felt hurt that instead of getting help, they were met with suspicion and fear. The whole experience made them question if the school truly cared about their son or if something else was wrong. After the meeting, the Thompsons left the school with heavy hearts. They hugged Jamal tightly and promised him they would keep fighting for his happiness and safety. They knew the road ahead would be hard, but they also knew they had to be brave. Jamal's voice mattered. So did every child's right to be treated with respect and kindness as they walked away from the school. That day, the Thompsons did not realize how much their story would touch others. Their courage to speak up, even when met with fear and misunderstanding, would soon bring attention to a problem many families face. They became a symbol of hope and change for their community and beyond. This was only the beginning of a journey. To make sure no child felt alone or scared because of who they are, the Thompsons knew that sharing their truth was the first step toward building a better and fairer school for Jamal and for every student. After the police arrived, the room felt even heavier. The officers stood quietly by the door, watching the Thompsons and the principal. Mrs. Collins, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson still held their heads high, even though their hearts were full of sadness and confusion. They'd come to the school for help, but instead they felt like strangers in a place where their son should have felt safe. Jamal, sitting beside his parents, looked up at the officers. He didn't understand why there were police. In the school, he felt nervous and wished the meeting was over. His mother gently squeezed his hand and told him to be brave. The officers spoke softly, asking the parents what had happened. Mr. Thompson calmly told them everything about the racist words Jamal heard, the way some teachers ignored him, and how the principal had called the police, even though they just wanted to talk. The officers listened carefully. They could see that the Thompsons were not angry or violent. They just wanted their son to be safe and treated fairly. After a few minutes, one officer nodded and said, "We're here to keep peace, but it seems like this is a misunderstanding." The officers talked with Mrs. Collins for a moment and told her to try to find a better way to handle such situations in the future, even though the police left soon after. The damage was done. The Thompsons felt shocked and worried. They could not believe that in a place where children go to learn and grow, parents could be treated like troublemakers for speaking out about racism. They wondered if their skin color was the reason why. The principal had reacted this way. Word about the incident started to spread quickly in the neighborhood. Many people heard how the Thompsons had been called the police on when they tried to protect their child. Some parents who had faced similar problems with their children in schools reached out to support them. Others felt angry and sad about what had happened. The story was shared on social media, and many voices joined together to demand change. Local community leaders took notice. They invited the Thompsons to speak at meetings and events to share their experience. The family spoke honestly about the hurt they felt and the hope they held for a better future. They wanted schools to be places where all children were safe and respected, no matter their race or background. At one community meeting, a group of parents, teachers, and activists came together. They talked about the importance of listening to families and teaching children about kindness and respect. Many said they had seen or heard about similar problems, but did not know how to help. The Thompsons' story gave them courage to speak up. Meanwhile, the school district began to receive many calls and messages from concerned people. They promised to look into this situation and to make sure something like this would not happen again. Some teachers started asking questions about how they could better support students facing racism. The principal, Mrs. Collins, faced many questions and was asked to explain her decision to call the police. Despite the growing support, Thompson still felt the weight of what had happened. Jamal was scared to return to school at first, worried that other children would laugh at him or that teachers would not believe him. His parents tried their best to comfort him. They reminded him that he was brave and that they were fighting to make things better to help Jamal. The Thompsons found a counselor who could talk with him about his feelings. The counselor listened to Jamal's fears and helped him find ways to feel strong again. Slowly, Jamal began to smile more and look forward to school once more. He made new friends who accepted him, and he joined a school club where everyone was kind. The Thompsons also worked hard with other families and community groups to hold workshops for teachers and school staff. These workshops taught about the harm racism causes and how important it is to create a welcoming place for every child. The school agreed to bring in experts to help improve how complaints were handled and how students were supported. At the same time, the Thompsons started a petition asking the school district to change its policies about racism and bullying. Many people signed it, showing how much the community cared. The petition called for better training for principals and teachers, clearer steps to protect students, and a promise that families would never be treated unfairly for speaking up. Mrs. Collins, feeling pressure from the community and school leaders, wrote a public statement. She said she was sorry for calling the police on the parents and that she had made a mistake. She promised to listen more carefully and to work with the family to fix the problems. Some people accepted her apology, but others wanted to see real changes before trusting her again. The incident also caught the attention of local news. Reporters interviewed the Thompsons and community leaders. The family spoke kindly but firmly about their experience. They wanted everyone to understand that racism still happens and that it is important to stand up for what is right. Their story helped many people see a problem they might have ignored before. Through it all, the Thompsons stayed strong together. They faced many hard days but also found moments of hope. Their courage inspired others to speak out about their own struggles. With racism and unfair treatment, the family believed that by sharing their truth, they could help create a safer, kinder world for Jamal and all children. As the weeks passed, the school began to change. New programs about respect and diversity were introduced. Teachers learned better ways to listen to students and families. The Thompsons continued to work with the school and community, always reminding everyone that every child deserves to feel safe and loved. The police incident, though painful, became a turning point. It showed the community that silence was not the answer, and that standing up, even when it is hard, can bring people together. The Thompsons hoped their story would help many others find the strength to speak out and to fight for justice and kindness in their own schools. As the story of the Thompsons and the principals spread, it touched many hearts in the town and beyond. People began talking about what had happened in the school, and many felt shocked and upset. They could not understand why a family who only wanted to protect their child would be treated so unfairly. The incident sparked important conversations about racism, respect, and how schools should handle complaints. News reporters came to the Thompsons' home to hear their story. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, with Jamal by their side, spoke openly and honestly. They explained how hard it was to watch their son suffer because of racism. They shared how the principal's reaction made them feel scared and unwelcome. They told the reporters that their goal was simple: to make the school a safe place for Jamal and all children. Many people in the community listened carefully to the Thompsons' words. Parents who had kept quiet about problems at their children's schools felt encouraged to speak up. Teachers and school staff started to think about how they could do better. The story became a way for people to learn and grow together. Local leaders and activists organized meetings to support the Thompsons and to discuss how to fight racism in schools. They invited experts to talk about fairness, equality, and respect for all students. The meetings were full of hope and determination. People shared their experiences and ideas. Everyone agreed that schools must be places where every child feels safe and valued. Some neighbors who had not known the Thompsons well before now reached out to show support. They sent kind messages and offered help. This kindness helped the family feel less alone during a difficult time. The community began to come together in a powerful way. The school district could no longer ignore the issue. They promised to investigate what happened with the principal and how the complaint was handled. The district leaders spoke to the Thompsons and listened to their concerns. They also talked with teachers, students, and other parents. Everyone wanted to find a solution. During the investigation, it became clear that many people had experienced similar problems at the school, but had been afraid to say anything. This showed that the issue was bigger than just one family or one incident. It was a sign that changes were needed to make the school fair and welcoming for everyone. The school district announced plans to improve how they respond to complaints about racism and bullying. They promised to train principals and teachers on how to listen carefully and act with kindness. They said they would create programs to teach students about respect and diversity. These steps gave hope to the Thompsons and the community. Mrs. Collins, the principal, faced many questions. She realized that calling the police on the Thompsons was a mistake. Publicly, she apologized and said she wanted to do better. Some parents and community members wanted to forgive her if she truly worked to improve the school. Others remained cautious, wanting to see real action, not just words. The Thompsons continued to be active and involved. They worked with local groups to hold workshops and talks about racism and fairness. They visited schools, community centers, and churches to share their message. They wanted to help others find the courage to speak up and to build stronger, kinder communities. Jamal's story inspired many children too. Some students who had felt scared or alone because of bullying or racism started to share their feelings. They joined clubs and activities that promoted friendship and respect. School began to feel like a place where everyone could belong. At home, the Thompsons supported Jamal every day. They reminded him of his worth and strength. Jamal learned to be proud of who he was and to stand up for himself with confidence. He grew into a happy and hopeful boy, ready to face the world with courage. The local news kept following the story. They showed how the community was coming together to fight racism and to make schools better. The Thompsons' courage and love became a shining example of how one family's voice can start a powerful change. As time passed, the school became a more welcoming place. Teachers used new ways to listen to students and families. Students learned about different cultures and the importance of kindness. The Thompsons helped to make sure these changes continued. This story reminded everyone that fighting racism is not easy, but it is necessary. It takes courage to speak up and to ask for justice. The Thompsons showed that love for a child and a desire for fairness can bring a whole community together. Their journey was far from over, but they knew they had made a difference. By standing up, they helped create a safer, kinder future for Jamal and for all children in the town. The story taught a lesson that would not be forgotten, that every child deserves to be treated with respect, and every family deserves to be heard. After the story had spread and many people showed support for the Thompsons, the school district knew it had to act. They could not ignore the complaints anymore. The district began a full investigation into what happened at the school. Wanted to understand how the principal, Mrs. Collins, had handled the situation and why she had called the police on the parents. The investigation started with interviews. School staff, students, parents, and the Thompsons were all asked to share their experiences. Everyone was honest and open. Many said that racism and unfair treatment had been a problem in the school for a long time, but no one had felt safe enough to speak up. The district leaders listened carefully to all the stories. The Thompsons told their side again. They explained how they had hoped for help from the school, but instead felt ignored and treated unfairly. They described the hurt and fear they experienced when the police came. Their words were clear and full of courage. The investigators could see that the parents had acted with respect and love for their son at the same time. The district looked into the school's policies and how complaints were handled. They found that the rules were not strong enough to protect students facing racism. Staff training on how to deal with such complaints was weak or missing. The district realized that changes were needed not just at this school, but in the whole system. Mrs. Collins was also interviewed. She explained why she called the police. She said she felt threatened and unsure how to handle the parents' strong concerns. However, she admitted that calling the police was not the right choice. She said she wished she had listened more carefully and acted with kindness. The district leaders told her that her actions had caused harm and needed to be corrected. After the investigation, the school district made an important announcement. They said Mrs. Collins would step down from her position as principal while they worked on fixing the problems. They promised to find a new principal who would create a safer and more welcoming school environment. The community saw this as a necessary step toward change. The district also shared a new plan to improve schools across the area. This plan included training for all school leaders and teachers about how to recognize and fight racism. The training would teach how to listen to students and families with respect and how to respond quickly to complaints. The goal was to make sure no family ever felt ignored or threatened again. In addition to training, the district introduced programs to support students. These programs taught children about diversity, kindness, and standing up for others. They encouraged students to be friends with everyone, no matter where they came from or what they looked like. The district hoped these lessons would create a better future for all children. The Thompsons were invited to help design these programs. They worked with teachers, counselors, and community leaders.
Nice.
They shared ideas based on their experience and what they had learned. The family wanted to make sure that other children would not suffer like Jamal did. Their involvement showed the power of turning pain into hope and action. Mrs. Collins also made a public apology. She said she was sorry for how she treated the Thompsons and for calling the police. She promised to learn from her mistakes and to support fairness and respect in schools. Some people accepted her apology, but others wanted to see proof that she would change before trusting her again. Apology was a start, but real change needed time and effort. Meanwhile, Jamal and his family began to feel safer and more hopeful. Jamal returned to school with new friends and teachers who listened. He joined groups that celebrated different cultures and encouraged kindness. He started to believe that school could be a happy place again. The Thompsons kept speaking out. They met with parents and teachers to talk about their journey. They told others that change is possible when people come together and work for fairness. They reminded everyone that every child deserves to be loved and protected. The community grew stronger because of the Thompsons' courage. Parents became more involved in schools, asking questions and sharing concerns. Teachers worked harder to make classrooms welcoming and safe. Students learned that their voices mattered and they could help create a kinder world. The story of the Thompsons showed that when people face unfairness, they do not have to stay silent. They can speak up, even when it is hard, and make a difference. The family's bravery inspired many others to stand against racism and to build better schools, though the journey was still ongoing. The Thompsons and their community had taken important steps forward. They had turned a painful experience into a chance for healing and hope. The school was changing, and the future looked brighter for Jamal and all the children. This story reminded everyone that fairness and kindness must be at the heart of education. It showed that listening and understanding are powerful tools. Most of all, it taught that families and communities working together can bring real and lasting change. After many months of hard work and change, the Thompsons felt a new sense of hope. The school where Jamal studied was no longer the place they had once feared. It was slowly becoming a place where children of all backgrounds could learn, play, and grow safely. This change did not happen overnight. It was a long and sometimes difficult journey, but the family never gave up. Jamal felt happier at school. He was surrounded by friends who accepted him for who he was. His teachers paid attention to how every child felt and made sure to stop any unkind behavior quickly. The school held regular events to celebrate different cultures and taught children about respect and kindness. Jamal loved these events because he got to share his own culture and learn about others. The Thompsons stayed involved with the school and the community. They met with parents, teachers, and leaders, often to talk about ways to keep improving the school. They helped create programs that taught children about fairness and standing up for each other. These programs showed students how to be good friends and how to include everyone, no matter their skin color or background. The family also worked to help other schools in the area. They spoke at meetings and shared their story to encourage other families to speak up when they saw something wrong.
Wow.
They wanted everyone to know that change is possible when people come together with courage and kindness.
And
Their story gave hope. Too many who had felt powerless before At home, Jamal's parents reminded him every day how proud they were of him. They told him that his bravery had helped many people and made the world a little better. Jamal felt strong and loved. He knew that even though there might still be hard days, he could face them because his family and community were with him. The principal, who replaced Mrs. Collins, was different. She listened carefully to students and parents. She made sure teachers were trained to treat everyone fairly. She worked hard to make the school a place where all children could feel safe and happy. The Thompsons respected her efforts and continued to support the school. The local community noticed the changes too. More parents got involved in school activities. People started to talk openly about racism and how to stop it. The town began to feel more connected and caring. The Thompsons' courage had sparked a movement of kindness and justice that spread far beyond one school. One day, the Thompsons were invited to a special ceremony at the school. The principal thanked them for their strength and for helping to make the school better for everyone. Jamal received a certificate for being a brave and kind student. The family felt proud, but also humble. They knew this was not just about them. It was about every child who deserved to be treated with respect. The Thompsons often thought back to the day when they first met with Mrs. Collins and the police. Were called. That memory was painful, but it was also a reminder of how far they had come. Their stories showed that even in the face of unfairness, love and courage can bring hope and change. The family hoped that their experience would inspire others everywhere. They believed that every school, every community, could become a place where all children are safe, happy, and respected. They knew that by standing up for what is right, anyone can help build a better world. Jamal grew up with the confidence that he mattered, and that his voice could make a difference. His parents continued to teach him the importance of kindness, fairness, and standing up for others. They wanted him to carry these lessons throughout his life. This story did not end with one family's struggle. It was the beginning of a new chapter for a whole community learning to be fair and caring. The Thompsons' journey reminded everyone that change takes time. But with hope and effort, it is always possible. Every child deserves to feel safe and loved. Every parent deserves to be heard. The Thompsons showed that when people come together, with respect and courage, they can change the world. One school, one child, one family at a time.